Hello everyone, my name is Sloan. I live in Austin, Texas with a ton of different houseplants, and this is my spring plant tour. I put out a different plant tour every quarter of the year, and I'm so excited to be sharing my spring update with you because so much of my collection looks different. It's almost like a completely different collection than it was in my winter plant tour. So much has changed. I have so many more plants. They're already growing so much, and I just can't wait to show you. If you're new here, I mostly post videos about my houseplants, whether it be plant chores, care tips, or plant shopping videos. But sometimes I also post about what's going on in my life, whether it's running a half marathon, what books I'm reading, or deleting social media for a month. Throughout this video, if you enjoy what you're seeing, I would so appreciate it if you would subscribe so that you can see my summer plant tour, which will be out in just a few months. And leave a comment down below on what plant you would add to my collection, because I'm still growing my collection out after moving across the country 6 months ago or so. So I would love your tips on what plants you think would fit in well within my existing collection. But without further ado, let's get into the plants. All right, let's kick this video off in my sunroom, starting with this back wall of my sunroom. This is one of my favorite areas in my house. I just feel like, I don't know, it looks very luscious, and I just love this little plant installation. I think maybe at some point I'll put shelving maybe so I can have more plants in here, but for right now, this is a really great spot where all of these plants get extremely bright but indirect light. Some of my plants, even all of this indirect light has been too much for them, so I've had to move them, but right now all of these are doing really well. And I think we'll start off with my anthurium veitchii, which I recently repotted. I actually recently repotted basically my entire collection, so a lot of my plants are settling in after a repot, but this is one that was putting out this leaf, and I just have a feeling this was going to be the most stunning, huge ribbed anthurium veitchii leaf ever, but I had a plant somewhat near it get spider mites, and I just decided to treat all of my plants that were on this shelf for spider mites just in case, and I think that that was a mistake. I think I'm going to be more careful with that. That's not something that I normally do. Like normally I just, treat the plants that have spider mites. I don't treat everything, but here I thought I was going to be all proactive and it was going to be so great, and that way it wouldn't spread or anything like that. But just because this leaf was still curled up, I think some of the spray got inside and crisped the leaf up, which was really disappointing, just because I think this was going to be my best leaf. But I have great news because there's a little spike. I'm not going to get too close. I will try to get a little close, but I want to be very careful not to break it. But I think that that is going to be a new leaf, so we can hope that it's going to be a big and beautiful one. We'll just have to see. And right in front of it is one of my mini phalaenopsis orchids. I have 2 of them, and actually all of my orchids are blooming. I have 3 orchids, and every single one is blooming. I just think that they are so stunning. And this is the only one of mine that I don't have in a slotted pot, and it was not $34. This is a different orchid pot, but yeah, I would say it's doing pretty well in there, and I just love having flowering plants in my collection. I think they're so fun. Then next to it, I have my syngonium albo, and the last time you saw this plant, it was in a prop box. So the way that I moved most of my plants across the country was by putting them in a prop box, like taking a bunch of cuttings and taking them across the country that way, which I highly recommend. I was able to take pretty much all the plants that I wanted to across the country. Of course, now I'm growing them out, but that's totally fine. My mom has the huge mother plant, and this is probably my favorite syngonium. Oh, there's Poplar. Hi, Pop. Hi, girl. She had a bath today because I'm pretty sure she either got sprayed by a skunk or just rolled in something similar to a skunk. I don't know, but she got a bath and she still kind of stinks. So she might get another bath with skunk shampoo today. She's so silly. Okay. Anyway, if I pet her, she's gonna stay here and want pets the whole time. Just behind it is my philodendron burle marx variegated, which looks a little crazy, but it's in this super cute house pot. And this is another one that I've been growing out from cuttings, and it's still just kind of getting settled in here. It does look crazy. Maybe I should trellis it up or something, but it's growing very well. Then here I have my begonia beefsteak, which I actually think might be getting a little too much light here. This is an example of a plant that it can have pretty dark leaves, but they're very light. And I think that's just because it's getting so much light in here. So I am considering moving it to a darker location, but the begonia beefsteak is actually only one of 2 begonias in my collection right now. I would like to increase the amount of begonias I have, but this is probably my favorite begonia. It's a rhizomatic begonia. So the leaves come in through the middle and they just end up in kind of like a big mounding shape, versus a cane begonia is one that grows straight up. And so those you would have to trellis or stake up, but this kind just mounds and looks really, really nice. And the leaves come in and they look red. That's what these little red spikes look like in there. And the back of the leaf is also super red. That's pretty common with the begonias, but I just think they look so fun and cool. I love this begonia so much. And this is another one that I grew out from my prop box. So it grew in from like 1 or 2 leaves. And like once it gets settled, they grow really fast. I was a little nervous when I repotted it. It got really floppy. And so I almost thought it wasn't going to make it, but she's here, she's surviving, and is doing really well. Next to it is my philodendron summer glory, which is a cross between a philodendron gloriosum and something else. I'm actually not sure, but I'll put it on the screen. And I'll just give you the spoiler. My favorite plant is the philodendron gloriosum. So I'm working through collecting every single cross there is of that plant because I love it just so much. And this is one that I've grown in from just being in a tiny, tiny 2-inch pot. And it's grown in so much, and I already have another leaf coming in, but this one is the newest leaf and it is huge in comparison to all my other leaves. So I think that it's pretty happy, and it can get to be such a large plant. So ideally I would love for this to be massive. So I'll just keep waiting for that to happen. It seems like it maybe isn't going to take that long, and it's in this cute little face planter, which I don't know that this plant is really doing the face planter justice, but I think it's cute anyway. And it is next to my other mini phalaenopsis orchid, which is also blooming, and it's so bright in here that it's almost hard to see because of how white they are. But this is one that's in this super cute square pot that I just got on Amazon, and I will link everything that I can in this video if I talk about any product that you're interested in, just to make things easier for you, down in the description box. But yeah, it's doing really, really well. I mean, I'm super happy with the blooms. I haven't seen this one bloom, I think, since I got it. And I just got it from a grocery store. So yeah, very happy with it. And next to it is my anthurium crystallinum. I always mix up crystallinum and clarinervium. They both start with C's. It's just so hard. But I think this is the newest leaf that it put out, which is huge, but obviously doesn't look that great. I find it very weird that it came in so speckly, but there was no sign of pest damage at all. Like normally when I see specks like this, I assume spider mites, but I really didn't see anything like that on either of these leaves. I think it's a humidity thing because this room right now, it's only at 40% humidity. It's quite low. I do have a humidifier in here, so I'll show you that once we get over there, and it's not running right now, so that could be part of the reason. But yeah, part of the reason I got the humidifier was because I was concerned that maybe it wasn't quite humid enough in here for this plant. But I am really liking the shade of this leaf. It's very dark. Some of the older leaves are light. There's actually quite a few leaves over here. I also should say that if you don't want to spread pests in your house, I would really recommend not having your plants touch, but I've given up on that a little bit, especially in here, just because it's hard when you want to fit a lot of plants in and give them all the best light. They just kind of end up touching. But I've also been pretty lucky with pests lately where I can keep, if I end up with pests, I'm able to keep it under control. So I guess I'm just taking that risk. But I have these kind of tied together via twine because it flopped over before, you know, these like smaller leaves were really, really floppy. I could almost just cut them off because they are quite yellow now, but essentially I had it in a pot that was too small. It was so root bound. Oh my goodness. I will definitely link the video where I repotted this because I just could not believe how root bound it was. And I found with my anthurium that the second that they are root bound, they suddenly like do not do very well and they complain and they just go downhill fast. So like definitely with anthurium, my number one recommendation is don't wait. Like they, in my experience, do not like to be root bound. And I think that's because when they're root bound, they run out of water very quickly. And if you don't keep up with it, then they're getting underwatered. Whereas right now it has a lot more room in the pot. And so it stays moist for longer. And I do have on actually all of my anthurium right now, except my veitchii, I add a layer of sphagnum moss to the top, which they really enjoy. And I do really need to add that to my anthurium veitchii. I just have not gotten around to it yet. But yeah, this was a plant that I got in a trade forever ago. And it was my first rare anthurium. And I'm just so happy with it. And I'm excited to see it grow. Hopefully the next time it puts out a leaf, it will be doing better than this one did. Next to it is my anthurium silver blush, which is doing so well. This was its newest leaf that it put out, which is like pretty freaking big, I think. This is such an interesting texture of anthurium. It didn't have room really where it expanded because of all the other leaves, and the stems on this are so stiff. Like it's almost like it needs to be putting out longer stems to make room for the leaves that it puts out. But I really love this plant. I actually do think this one might be root bound, so I probably should repot it. This is one I haven't repotted in, I think only like a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 2 years. I'd have to check. I film a lot of plant shopping videos, so there's probably a plant shopping video for almost every single plant that I am showing. And I'm remembering the plant shopping video that I filmed where I got this, and it definitely was 2 years ago. So maybe it is about time, but I am really, really happy with how well it's doing. Like it is just such a pretty plant. There's so many leaves in here. And this is actually the flower that I tried to pollinate. In a video, I collected the pollen and then also tried to pollinate it, and it clearly did not work out for me. And it's putting out a new flower, so I guess I could try collecting the pollen from this and try again. Maybe I will. I still have not had success doing that with an anthurium at all, so we'll see. But it is putting out a new leaf, and that is coming from, I think there's like a couple different offshoots in here, but this leaf is coming from the same stem that put out this huge leaf, so I'm very excited about that. Very excited to see what that ends up looking like, and if we get one as big as this is, I guess we'll just have to keep an eye on it. And if you have any favorite anthurium, I really want to add more anthurium to my collection. Please give me your favorite anthurium in the comments below, because I think I only have maybe 5 or 6. And I don't really have any that are super, super dark. And then we are to one of my favorite plants in my entire collection. I got this the same time that I got my anthurium silver blush, actually. This is my amidrium zippolinum variegated. And I kept this in my greenhouse cabinet for literally years up until I moved here, like just a couple of months ago, because I needed room in my greenhouse cabinet to put some of my plants that I was acclimating from the prop box. And so I was like, well, this one is, getting too tall, a little too tall to be able to keep in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet. And so this just felt like the right time to take it out. But it has been growing like crazy. However, it kind of went through some things. So I love to say with plant care that plant care is not that serious. And most of the time, I feel like it's just really easy to overthink plant care. However, fertilizing your plant actually is that serious. And I ended up over fertilizing this, which is what this burn is for sure. I am so confident that that is what is happening here. And it just, a lot of the leaves ended up getting really crispy. So that's why this one is shaped like this. I cut off a lot of the burnt parts. This leaf was my favorite leaf on the whole plant and then ended up just crisping, and now it's a really weird shape. I mean, the leaves are a weird shape regardless. But yeah, I was pretty sad because the particular shape of this one was my favorite. But good news happened when I fertilized it is that the main stem activated 2 different nodes here that have grown quite a bit. So right off of that first node, I immediately got a fenestrated leaf. These have such funky leaves. Like, look at this fenestration, is so silly, but how cool to immediately get one that's fenestrated right from the bottom. And then I'm getting this leaf, which I don't think is fenestrated, but only time will tell as that one unfurls. And then over here, I got this leaf. It's a funky shape. I love the funky shapes of the non-fenestrated leaves. And then this leaf is popping off. I'm not gonna touch it because I don't want to damage it. It still looks like it's kind of working its way out, but very excited about that. And then I also got, this was my very first fenestrated leaf. And then this one came out. I mean, like, I know this plant isn't for everyone, but how cool, I think it's just so cool. I freaking love this plant. I should really showcase it more and talk about it more, especially now that it's growing so well. And yeah, it's about ready for me to extend the pole as well. This is what she looks like in her full glory. And back when I was in Iowa, I had multiple plants that I was able to stack 2 moss poles high, but with moving and everything, I made sure to only take plants that were at most only 1 moss pole. Like, I did travel with this one on 1 moss pole, but yeah, now it's ready for me to add another one so it can keep on growing, which is super exciting. Next to it is another one of my absolute most favorite plants in my collection, the Philodendron Splendid, which is a cross between the Philodendron verrucosum and the Philodendron melanochrysum, and it is almost like a neon color. This leaf looks so much like a melanochrysum coming in, but just as they harden off, I feel like they get more of the neon verrucosum color, and they have such pretty backs of the leaf as well. I think I purchased it, like cuttings from someone off of Facebook Marketplace, and this was another one that I traveled with via prop box. But when I first got this plant off of Facebook Marketplace, the leaves were this small, and then throughout growing it out, I was able to very quickly get the leaves to be about this size or bigger. And so now I'm working on growing the leaves out again. They are still kind of acclimating and getting large again. Like, these are definitely the oldest leaves on the base, but I'm really excited to grow it out again. I found it to be a very easy plant, very easy to size up. So I'm sure in no time the leaves will be big again, and it rooted into the moss pole. At least this one did very quickly. I think the other one, because there's 2 cuttings in here, is still kind of working on it. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with how it's growing, and it's in one of my favorite pots. This pot is from Italy, but my grandma gave it to me, and I just think it's a really fun pot. I guess it's not that interesting, but I really, really like it. And it is next to my Philodendron oxypopense. And this was a plant that I got in a plant mystery box through the plant dealer, which I haven't gotten their plants in years, but it still exists, so I can link it. But anyway, it was a mystery box, and basically I signed up for it for like 6 months or something, and it was I want to say it was like my graduation gift to myself after graduating from my master's degree, or maybe it was like me getting into my master's degree program. I don't know. Somehow it was a gift to myself for something that I did. And this was not a plant that I ever would have picked out on my own. I just don't think I ever really would have thought about it, but it looks so cool as it matures, and so I'm really trying to get this one to mature. I feel like the leaves are already starting to get longer. Like those are pretty small. And I just feel like this is just a fun, interesting plant to have in my collection. And I really love moss poles and climbing plants. And I just find that, like I know a lot of people say that moss poles are kind of difficult to take care of and keep up with, but I always use these closed back moss poles so they stay moist for quite some time. And then cups in the top with holes poked into them that I just poked in with a thumbtack, and it's really easy to just come around with a watering can, water this cup and fill this cup up a bit, and then it slowly trickles down and waters the moss pole. And honestly, I never even have issues if my moss poles fully dry out. I just take them to the sink and completely saturate them with water, again, fill this cup up, and they're good to go. Like my plants, it doesn't happen that often that the poles completely dry out, but when it happens, it's not like the whole plant dies. It's just like, I find that it's pretty similar to if your pot completely dries out, like the soil completely dries out, you just water it again and they're fine. And yeah, I don't find that I have issues with the moss being hydrophobic if, you know, I'm taking the whole plant to the sink and soaking it down anyway. So yeah, I just really love moss poles and highly recommend them still. All right, and the very last plant on this little section is also my newest plant. This is the philodendron glorious, which is on my plant wish list for 2025. It is a cross between the philodendron gloriosum and I think melanochrysum, I'm pretty sure. But I bought this recently at Tejas Plants and Gifts, which is my favorite plant store that I've been to in Austin so far. And it actually was a greenhouse in her backyard, but now it's gonna be a real plant store, which I have mixed feelings about because I felt like going to someone's house and there's a greenhouse in her backyard and shopping was really, really fun. But yeah, I just felt like she had super great plants at super great prices. Like this plant is huge. It's really only put out like 2 leaves since I bought it, and it was $40. And to me, that's a really great price. So definitely looking forward to doing a lot more shopping there. But yeah, this newest leaf came out a little damaged. It is the first leaf that it's given me, and I have repotted it. I actually did knock off a leaf, and you can't even tell that I did that. But this is also the leaf that it put out after I accidentally broke off the other one. So I'm just kind of assuming that maybe it's like the low humidity coupled with like new conditions that made this one look a little funky. But again, I feel like I would think pests when I see weird little spots like this, and that's not really what's happening at all. Like I don't see any sign of pests. So yeah, with all of my plants, if you have opinions or if you are like, hey, I think this is what's going on, definitely let me know in the comments. And yeah, I will definitely read them because obviously all of you have lots of plants too, I imagine, or want lots of plants, maybe know things that I don't know. So I would love to read them. I always keep up with my comments and I love to read them. It's so fun to read through and chat with you guys. So working around the room, I have this Dracaena. And I have so much to say about this Dracaena. Oh my goodness. So I purchased this Dracaena, months ago. I went plant shopping with my husband and he really, really liked it. And I had this whole idea where I was going to grow it in my living room, and it was going to be an experiment to see how well it would grow in lower light. My living room is just on the other side of this wall. But unfortunately, very quickly after bringing it home, I accidentally overwatered it. I think this is the first plant that I have ever overwatered, like super overwatered, and had like major issues from it. So I think it is slowly dying. It looks pretty good right now because I periodically chop off all of the dead and browning leaves, but there actually were 3 stems in here and now there are only 2, which I do like the look of, I will say. But basically what happened is that I had it in the plastic nursery pot in this pot, kind of as a cash po, and I watered it and a bunch of water drained out, and I saw that water was sitting in the bottom of the tray, but I don't know why. I assumed that the nursery pot was like sitting high enough up in the pot itself that the pot wasn't sitting in a bunch of water, but I think that it was, because then the next thing I knew, the little tiny Dracaena fully croaked. It was like, you know, it was like kind of like a little one here and then bigger and then bigger. And the little one fully died, and then a bunch of the leaves started dying up here. I did lose also like this stem right here I had to fully chop off, and like I just think this stem is probably next, like it's kind of flopped over. And if we look at the stem down here, I see some browning, and right here is squishy. And I just don't think that that's a good sign. This one actually isn't squishy, but this one wasn't squishy until a couple days ago. So I think it's just gonna slowly rot, which is very sad. But what's crazy is that when I repotted it, the roots look great. Like the roots did not look like there is anything wrong with them. So that's kind of weird. But basically what I've decided is that this plant, I'm just gonna keep for as long as it lives, and periodically chop off the leaves because it still looks really good. As long as I chop off the brown, like this still looks like a great plant. And then when it fully dies on me, I will buy a new one, which is unfortunate because I don't remember how much this plant was, but it was one of my more expensive plants that I've ever purchased because it's big, and we'll try again. So lesson learned. It happens. It doesn't happen to me often, but it happens. And yeah, I just moved it into my sunroom because basically I'm rehabbing it, but I just think there's no hope for this. Like I'm rehabbing it, but I don't think it's gonna work out. So I didn't even get to try my experiment of seeing how well it would grow in my living room. But the good news is that it looks good in this corner in the sunroom. So I guess I can't complain about that. Just to the right of my Dracaena is my philodendron squamiferum, which is also one that I got from the mystery box years and years ago. And when I got it, the leaves were this big, like they were huge. And this is one that I took across country via prop box, and now the leaves are so small. So I'm really hoping I can get this to size up. But I do have it on just a wooden stake, just as something to try out that's different. Like I have a lot of climbing plants, and so it's kind of nice to not have every single one on a moss pole as much as I do like moss poles. So this is one of my stake plants, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing it grow out. It hasn't done a single thing for me. It does look like maybe it's attaching right there. So that's really exciting. I hope that it is attaching. I'm not gonna take the Velcro off for now, but that is already a really, really good sign. And also, I just wanted to point out, this is the new chunky soil mix that I'm using. I found a really coarse perlite that I'm mixing in, and I freaking love it. It is so nice. I just feel like it looks really nice, and I know my plants are really loving it. So I'm very, very excited about my new soil mix. And then over here is my Monstera Lechleriana, which is another one I took via prep box. And this one I watered this morning, and it's kind of been sitting in water. I watered with liquid dirt, hence the color of water. But yeah, I should probably get this out of the water and clear that up. Not a bad idea. But this plant looks so cool as it matures. So I'm really trying to get it to mature, but even while the leaves are small, they're just so green and luscious. And I've been seeing variegated Monstera Lechlerianas pop up recently, which I just think is crazy because I don't feel like I ever really saw this plant before. I was sent this one by a subscriber years ago and still love it. So thank you so much to that subscriber. But yeah, I barely really even knew what it was, and I just feel like they weren't that common. So to see the variegated ones pop up, I'm like, what? People know what this plant is? I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I just feel like I never really heard anyone talk about them, never saw them for sale in stores, and I kind of want the variegated one. I kind of do. I feel like they're really pretty, and it would be a great addition to my collection, but thus far I have resisted. And then just to the right of it is one of my favorite philodendrons. This is my philodendron White Princess, and this is one that I got as a little cutting, and it has grown out so much. So when I got this, it was just one plant, but it has activated so many nodes to where like I can't even tell you how many stems are in here. And this was one that I had growing just up a stake, and that's when all of the leaves were this small. And I just decided that like these leaves look really pretty, but like wouldn't they be extra pretty if they were bigger? So I decided to put it on a moss pole, and now it is sizing up so well. The leaves are getting so big. Oh my gosh, look at this one. Are you kidding? That's gorgeous. So I'm really excited to see the leaves continue to grow out. This is one that is prone to burning, and when I had it, as I mentioned earlier, over on the little bench with a lot of my other plants, that's where this burn came from. Some of the other burning came from when I had it under a grow light. But yeah, now these newest leaves, this one and this one, came out since I moved it to the floor, and I think it is liking that a lot more. So hopefully it continues to do well. I mean, obviously as it gets taller, it's gonna get up to window level, and then I'll have to see if I need to move it again. But I'm just really, really excited by how much this is growing out, and I'm already getting a new leaf in there. You can see it's starting to come out, but I'm actually right next to my humidity reader. So it's 82 degrees in here right now and around 40% humidity. I would really like for it to be closer to 50. I would love for it to be a little more humid in here because that's gonna help those leaves get out a bit easier. But so far, my plants have been doing okay in low humidity. You know, sometimes it does get down to like 30, which I don't love, but it's just dry here, so much drier here than it is in Iowa. All right, then over here, I keep a lot of my succulents and cacti. Not quite all of them, but a lot of them. So here is one of my jade plants. This is one that I'm trying to get to grow into kind of like a bonsai forest situation. And I don't have any bonsai, but that's what I'm trying to get out of here. And it's settling in really, really well. I just took this as a top cutting from my larger jade plant, and I think it's finally rooted. That's been the piece that is taking the longest. I just chopped the top off and stuck it in the soil, so it's taken quite some time. But the other two has been growing really well. It has 2 little branches there. This one has a number of branches, so I do need to figure out how I'm gonna grow this and train it out, but so far it's doing very well. And right here I have my burro's tail succulent. And this was a free plant that I got from Tillery Street Plant Co. Or actually it was East Austin Succulents, which is right next door. Here in Austin, I got to spin a wheel and get a free plant. And this was my free plant, which I feel like is a really solid free plant. And I'm very slowly trying to grow it out. So I have a little cutting of a little leaf there. Really, it's not a cutting, it's one that fell off. And oh, another one fell off, so I'll add that. But then that one there. So let's add that little guy right now. Oops. So yeah, they propagate really, really easily. So hopefully that grows in well, and then I can have a really big bushy plant. But they just have a really pretty silvery hue, and they can flower. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it and looking forward to have a bigger one someday. Then next to it is my variegated Thanksgiving cactus, which is another plant that I got from the mystery plant box. And this is one of my favorite plants, and I've decided that I really want to grow it out. So I also have a bunch of cuttings that I'll show you later, but I really feel like it's ready for a repot, but it's only one stem. So that's what I'm thinking with the other cuttings, is that I can get it to have multiple stems. This is also the floppiest of all of my Thanksgiving cacti. My other ones stand up a lot straighter, which is really interesting, but I just think it's so pretty, and it always flowers for me, and it's just a really, really easy, great, beautiful plant. Right here, I have 3 cacti that my parents brought for me when they went to Arizona, and I have it in this cute little Arizona pot with an Arizona sign in the back. And it has grown so much. I mean, like, this one is so tall and it looks really, really good. I think it's a barrel cactus, has actually also gotten a bit taller since I got it. And then this one has also gotten taller, I think. So if you look at how the growth on the top is a little bit skinnier as it goes up, I think that that is what's considered winter growth, from when the days are much shorter and theoretically it didn't get as much direct sunlight. And so the general recommendation is to not water your cacti in the winter so that you don't get growth like that. So I guess I maybe shouldn't have watered it, but it's hard because my other cactus, the one right next to it, looks so good. Poplar has decided that she wants to go out, so we must let her out. But anyway, I don't know if I'll water these next winter or not, but I also have these little tiny baby cacti or something down there, so I'm excited to see if anything comes of those. Up here in my little peacock, very boho, vintage peacock chair, I have my variegated bear paw succulent. I got this for Christmas from my mother-in-law a couple of years ago, and it's just really cute and happy. It does not smell like anything special. I feel like I always hear people say that bear paw succulents smell like honey or something. I really don't think so. I don't think it smells like anything, but it is just a nice plant. I can't believe how much we've been chatting, and we're like maybe halfway through my sunroom. So still so many more plants to go. But over here, I also have this little tiny cactus. This was a gift from my friend Kaylee, and it has done nothing for me. So I guess I should repot it. I mean, I guess cacti often don't really do much, but I feel like I could repot this because it's been many, many years of being in a tiny pot, and maybe take a look at the roots, give it some fresh new soil. I get soil from East Austin Succulents. They like build their own blend, and I just feel like my plants are really happy in it. My succulents are, so that could be nice to give it like a little refresh. But yeah, this, if you go back and watch all my other plant tours, I'm sure this plant has not changed at all in many years. All right, and then next to it is my Golem's Jade succulent. This one was one that I repotted recently, and I had it in a pot that had no drainage, and it had been in there forever. It was so root bound, and I repotted it into this pot, which this is the first of many pots that you're going to see that match this style. I got them from a family member when they moved. They just had like a bunch extra, and so I took them all, of course. And yeah, I just think they're so cool. But this plant was kind of struggling to settle in. I think also because, I mean, my bad in a way, that the last pot that it was in had a bit more depth to it, and it was root bound. And so like getting these plants to fit in here, like they're just very tall for the size of pot that it has. And so that's why they're all staked up, is because I was trying to make sure that they didn't flop over. And thankfully they are all rooted now, so I'm gonna keep them staked for a bit longer. This would enjoy being boosted up to be like a bit closer to the window, but this is where I have it for now, and seems to be happy so far. All right, and then next to it, in another really beautiful pot, is my ponytail palm, which is doing so well. She's living her best life. This is the most light that this plant has ever gotten, so I'm really hoping that it grows quite a bit. This is one that I would definitely consider putting outside. I'm really considering putting a lot of my plants outside. I have really nice covered areas that I could put them in, but I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm also going out of town soon, and so it just feels like a project to do when I get back. But yeah, let me know if you live in a climate that gets as hot as it does in Texas, and if your plants do well. I don't know, there's something about like having my plants outside when it's 100 degrees makes me worried. I know I'd be watering them all the time, but I just feel like this one would love being outside. I just have a feeling. So really considering it, because I'd love to have a huge ponytail palm someday. All right, and then standing at kind of this weird angle so that it's not super backlit, I have my fiddly fig bambino that is doing so well. I used to have it in a plant stand, and then it was very tall, like definitely taller than me, and now it's very close. It's probably 4 feet tall now, so it's close to being taller than me. Here, you know, it's really backlit, but this is kind of what it looks like where it's at. I also am really looking forward to painting in here, but I hate all of these colors, so it's not gonna be one of these colors. I don't like any of them, but I'm really looking forward to painting in here. I feel like I want to do some kind of pastel, pretty much any pastel. It could be pastel pink, blue, purple, yellow, I don't know. Let me know what you would do in this room. I feel like I haven't really shown what it looks like from afar, but I just want it to be not white, some other color. But anyway, my bambino is very happy. She is always thirsty, but I do have it in a terracotta pot, so that kind of checks out. But I just find it to be a super, super easy grower. I do really want it to branch out. I feel like I'm at the point where I should probably chop the top of it. It's at the point where I definitely need to. I just really don't want to chop this because it's so pretty. Then to the left, I have my ficus Audrey, which this was a plant that I really didn't love. It really didn't do much for me. And then I put it outside last summer and it grew like a weed. And then I was like, well, now I really like this plant and I will take it to Texas, in fact. And guess what? In the last 6 months, not even one new leaf. It hasn't done anything for me. So if I do put my plants outside, this is definitely one of the first ones that will be going outside. I will say that I find that after you repot a ficus, they take a long time to settle in. Like they really want to get their root systems established before they really do anything. And I did repot this one like just a few months ago. Again, it's in another one. I gotta move this anthurium so you can get the full view, but it's another one of those really cool vintage pots. This one is probably the coolest one of all of my pots that look like this because of the shape. But yeah, this plant was crazy root bound before I repotted it. It really needed a repot, but I think she's taking her sweet time settling in. Winston decided to come say hello. He said it can't just be poplar in the video. All right, and then down here on the ground is my anthurium serrano, which I bought because it has these really cool purpley flowers, but it has not been doing too hot. Like the leaves are coming in looking like this, like that flower looks a little weird and crispy. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with it. Oh my gosh, yeah, look at that one. It's a lot like my other anthurium, the anthurium crystallinum, or whatever it is, clarinervium. I think it's a crystallinum. It's kind of doing the same thing. So I feel like this is a humidity issue. I don't know. This one also, when I potted it up, and I just watered this, so it's very moist. I don't see any roots peeking out the bottom, but when I put this in this pot, I was kind of like, I feel like this pot is too small, like from the get-go. So I feel like it really dries out very quickly already, even though I just potted it in here like a few months ago. So that could be part of it, but it is finally blooming for me. I have another spike there, plus this one is coming out. And this is one that I really did buy for this color of flower. I just feel like they're really, really striking and beautiful and hard to find. This was one that I bought in Minnesota at Tonkadale Greenhouse. And then my parents hung on to it for a couple months, and then I drove home from Iowa to Texas over Thanksgiving with it in the car. So it has really traveled very far, and I just feel like I never see that color of flower on anthurium for sale. So I do really love it, and I'm happy it's flowering. I think that because it's getting so much sunlight, it's flowering, and if I didn't have it in so much sunlight, it probably wouldn't be. So very happy about that. Down on the ground here, I have a crawling philodendron. This is such a fun philodendron. I love philodendrons that have really pillowy leaves like this with a lot of texture, and this one definitely fits that bill. This is probably the number1 plant that I forget the name of, partially because it was mislabeled when I bought it. Oh, I feel like maybe it's a pastazanum, maybe? I will put it on the screen what it is for sure. But of all of my plants, this is the one that I can never keep track of what it is. And one of the characteristics of this plant that is super unique is that the stems are like kind of squared off. They're a very odd shape in comparison to most philodendron, which I think is really fun. And it's putting out this new leaf for me. And this is one that I've been trying to get to grow in a circle. So the thing about crawling philodendron is that they take up quite a bit of space. And if you get them to grow in a circle, then they take up much less space versus like if I had this just go straight across the pot, it would have ran out of space very quickly. But this one always likes to lift up and then I have to pin it back down. And I just feel like I'm not getting a lot of great leaf growth out of it. But I did also have it in really low light and recently moved it into my sunroom, but on the floor because crawling philodendrons obviously crawl, so they're growing on the jungle floor. So I didn't want to give it too much sunlight, but I don't know. It's not really doing anything like sizing up for me very well. So I'll keep it here for a bit, but maybe this is one that doesn't want to crawl in a circle. I don't know. it keeps trying to lift, which is very annoying. Some people also try to grow their crawling philodendron up a pole. So theoretically I could try that, but I actually really love the look of crawling philodendron, so I kind of prefer not to. But I don't know, I really want it to have huge leaves like my philodendron gloriosum that you guys haven't seen yet. So we'll see. Okay, so now we can talk about the plants that I keep on this little table that I'm so excited about. This is a new addition since my last plant tour. It's a little 50s dining table that we just have in here to use as an extra desk. I mean, I originally put this here for me, but my husband actually sits here quite a bit, working or studying or doing whatever. So it's been really, really, really nice to have in here, and I just think it's so fun. But over here I have my variegated string of pearls, which has been doing very well. I think it's really cute in this pot tray combo. And it gave me this pearl, which is so variegated. Oh my goodness. I feel like variegated string of pearls, you have to look really closely to really realize that they're variegated. Like, they really don't look that different than a regular string of pearls, but I do still really love them. And just behind it is my one large orchid. This is my one big flower phalaenopsis orchid. This is one that I purchased because it matches the flowers that we had in our wedding exactly, which is really, really special. And I'm so happy that it's flowering. It's so happy. I also really want to increase my orchid collection and get some orchids that aren't just phalaenopsis. So let me know what I should get. Let me know where I should get them. That's the other thing. I don't really know where. Actually, there's a really cool orchid greenhouse in San Antonio, so maybe I just need to drive down there. But I just think it's so, so pretty, and I'm so happy to have it in my house. This orchid also bloomed for us right before our wedding, which was really special considering it is like matches our wedding flowers perfectly. My husband's boutonniere, he had this orchid on, so it was very special, and it is just growing like crazy. This pot I got from Tillery Street, and one of the crazy things is that the roots are growing out of the pot like this. So I don't know a lot about orchids. Like, look at that one. I know that if I ever have to repot this at some point, it is going to be so difficult. And I also think, maybe not. I feel like they kind of feel like they might be attaching, but I also feel like maybe this is something the orchid is really enjoying, because in the wild, they would attach to trees and stuff like that. So I don't know. I know that a lot of people grow their orchids in open pots like this. So I can't be the first person that this has happened to where they're growing out of the pot. Maybe this is like very common. I have no idea, but I love this pot and I'm really happy to have this orchid growing in it, and I'm happy it's doing well. And just behind it is my big jade plant, which loves Texas. This is the most sun that I've ever been able to give it, but it's a little unruly. Like, I just don't know what I want to do with it long term. This is a family plant that's like very special to my husband, that's kind of been passed down throughout his family. I can't remember. I feel like we actually got this one from a store after his family killed the ones that were passed down through his family. So I actually don't really remember if this one in particular was like a family plant, but like the sentiment is very sentimental for his family at least. And I like the idea of like kind of a crazy plant, but I don't know if it just looks really bad. So let me know what you think. I think the stems are really cool, the really, really thick ones that have grown in, but obviously they're growing very sideways, and I just don't know if they look a little crazy. Let me know what you think. Then next to it, and another one of my really, really fun vintage pots, is my string of pearls plant. This actually has no roots on it right now for the most part. I'm trying to reroot it. This plant used to be so long back in Iowa, but a lot of the pearls right at the top of the plant started to die off, and only the pearls at the end were living. So I basically like chopped it all up and tried rerooting it. These pearls over here are so thick, but the rest of them are really thin. So I've just been watering this and kind of spraying the top and hoping that it will root in. And I guess only time will tell. This was pretty recent that I potted this up in here. Right next to it is my banana tree, which is doing so well. It definitely needs a repot because it is drying out really, really quickly. But this is like the third or fourth banana tree that I've had. I tend to have them grow out the mother plant and then the mother plant dies away, but then one of the pups continues growing, and yeah, I'm just really happy with it. This was like one of the first houseplants I was so excited to have, so I'll probably have a banana tree in my collection forever. And then I have one of my other Thanksgiving cacti. This is my biggest one, which I also just repotted for the first time since like 2021, so that was really great. But this flowers for me every year, multiple times a year. It is growing quite a bit and also is sun stressing a lot, which I love to see. It's also, this is the most sun I've ever been able to give it, so it makes sense that it would be sun stressing a bit. And yeah, I'm really excited that I have it in some new soil with some new nutrients, and I'm looking forward to seeing it grow even more. This was a plant that we got as a housewarming present from the previous owners of our first house. So it's very special, and yeah, they probably didn't know that years later I would still have it. It'd be in Texas and still growing with my huge houseplant collection. But yeah, it's pretty sentimental, especially now that we sold that house. So very special to have in the collection. And then right here was one of my #1 wishlist plants for a long time. And I feel like the backlight is really not even doing it justice. Look at that, look at those roots. This is my sansevieria pinguicula that I got from East Austin Succulents, and I absolutely freaked out when I saw this because I wanted one for so long, and I got it. It was about this size and it was only $40, which I just felt like was a steal, like to already have these roots like this coming out. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It is nicknamed the walking sansevieria because it looks like it's walking out of the pot, and I just think that is so fun. This is such a fun conversation starter plant, and I'm so happy to have it in my collection. And like, I just loved a plant shop in person, so it was really special that I could pick this up in person as well. Next to it is my string of hearts silver glory, which I have in this pot that I just really like how it's shaped. And I recently repotted this. It was so root bound. It was insanely root bound and still growing and still really happy, but I think it's gonna be so much happier now that it's in a bigger pot. It is already flowering a bunch for me. I think their flowers are so fun. They always come in purple. I feel like I saw another one. Oh yeah, this one's maybe easier to see. Like, I don't know, I just feel like they're such fun colors. And there's one right here as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this one continue to grow out. It's just a really easy succulent to have. Right here I have my Hoya compacta, which I used to keep in my greenhouse cabinet and recently moved it out because I'm planning on repotting it, and when I do, it's gonna be in a really tall pot that's gonna be too tall for my greenhouse cabinet. And this also hasn't been repotted since like 2021. But this is one that is constantly blooming for me, and it's blooming right now. And I love these blooms so much because they smell like Tootsie Rolls. When I tell you that I am walking over to this plant and taking a big sniff multiple times a day, I am not kidding. I love how these flowers smell. So I love that it blooms so much. I mean, like this peduncle is huge, but it barely ever puts out growth for me. It recently did put this leaf out, which is huge, and I think looks better than all of the rest of the leaves. So I think once I get it some new soil, maybe it'll actually start growing for me. I know these are typically slow growers, but I would love for it to be huge. However, I really can't complain because it flowers for me so much. Then on one of my little 50s dining chairs, I have my variegated fiddly fig, which was recently featured in my most expensive plants video, and it wasn't doing super well when I filmed that. Like, it has all of these spots on it, which I was pretty sure were edema. I guess there's those spots, and then there's these ones that are like a slightly different shade of red. I don't know, I was pretty sure they were edema, but like not really sure what was going on. And then one of you said they might be rust fungus. So I don't really know, but I will say that it started putting out perfect leaves. Like, that leaf is perfect, and then the next leaf I put out was this one, which is even more perfect, and it is working on putting this one out right now that looks stunning and also perfect. So whatever was going on, it seems to have figured itself out, and I am utterly stoked that this plant is doing well. Like I said, I just feel like ficus take a really long time to settle in, and I feel like this one is finally settled, finally really starting to grow for me, and it's such a fun, unique plant. Like, I really don't see this very often. I've only seen it for sale the one time that, like, from the place that I bought it from. So yeah, I'm just really happy to have it in my collection. I think it would be so stunning to have a huge one, and you know, with a little luck, hopefully I will get there soon. In front of it are two more Hoya that I recently moved out of my IKEA greenhouse cabinet. So first is my Hoya obovata that I have in this Le Creuset pot. We love Le Creuset in this house, so it's fun to have a pot that is Le Creuset. And this is one that I took cuttings of and moved with, and it has been growing so slowly for me, but finally I have a new leaf here, and then this one's a new leaf, which is how I knew that I was comfortable enough to take it out of the greenhouse cabinet. So I'm really hoping that it enjoys growing in here and continues to grow for me, but it so far has been taking a long time to grow out from cuttings. So we'll see, hopefully she grows a bit faster now. And in front of it, I have my Hoya hushkleana variegata that I also have had in my greenhouse cabinet. And this is one I grew out from a teeny tiny little cutting, and I've never propagated it. Like, it was one stem and it branched off this much all on its own, which we love. And I had it in a tiny little 2-inch pot for a really long time, and I kind of struggled with it. I felt like it dried out all the time. And finally I repotted it into this pot, which is still like a pretty small pot. And that's when it exploded with growth. And so I feel like this is one that is just really enjoying having some fresh soil and a lot more soil than it had in that other pot. Oh my gosh, and look at this. It's growing more right there. But I just moved it out of my greenhouse cabinet super recently, so I don't know how it's gonna do in more ambient humidity or out here generally, but hopefully it does well. I guess I did have it in ambient humidity for a long time before I moved into the greenhouse cabinet, and it was fine, but it was really like after repotting / when I put it in the greenhouse cabinet that it exploded. So hopefully that continues. I also found that this is one that used to bloom for me a lot when it was in a tiny pot. Like, it would only bloom, it would never put growth out. So maybe that's a Hoya thing, because that's exactly what's happening with my Hoya compacta actually. But the blooms often would fall off. Like, if I missed a watering, I would lose all of my blooms, which was so sad. And the blooms on this one smell like popcorn, which is fun. And they're also yellow, so it's like a good blend. But anyway, I love this Hoya so much. It's one of my top favorite Hoya that I have probably. So I'm really happy to see it grow. And I also very recently put it in this setup with the little brass feet, and I just think it's so fun. So excited to see this one continue to grow. If you can believe it, we still have 8 plants left in my sunroom. Oh my goodness. Here I have my avocado tree, and it's growing pretty well. I find this to be a very difficult plant. I did have this one in terracotta, and it did not like that, and it does seem to be much happier in ceramic. This pot was one that I got from Goodwill, and I just feel like it's a really cool pot, so it was a really good find. But yeah, it barely has any leaves. I feel like I lose the bottom leaves on it all the time, and it looks really funky. But this is one that I grew out from a pit from just like an avocado that I bought at the store. So it's pretty special to have in my collection. As long as it lives, I'll probably keep it. And somehow she's still kicking, she's still living. Down here, I have my Epipremnum pinnatum skeleton key, which I also took cuttings of and pretty recently repotted, and I'm trying to get it to grow up the moss bowl. Looks like I'm getting a tiny new leaf in there. It's like too much going on. But the mature leaves of this plant look so cool. They literally look like skeleton keys. Like that is truly the best way to describe them. So I'm trying to get mine to mature, which is why I'm having it grow up a moss pole. I've never had a mature one of these. However, I never really tried in my last house. So this is the year that, well, I don't know if it'll happen in a year, but definitely with this plant in this house, I am really trying to get this one to mature as much as I can. And then to the right of it, I have my philodendron veitchii, which is growing pretty well for me. I'm trying to get it to root onto the stake, but this side seems to be wanting to like wrap around. So that's kind of weird. I don't know if I should let that happen or not. I guess I just moved it, so I guess I'm not letting that happen. But it's already putting out a new little leaf I see. So that's really exciting. And this was one that I potted up when I really didn't have a lot of available pots. And I just feel like this is such a cool pot. And I don't know if this plant is doing this pot justice. Like I feel like a Thanksgiving cactus would look really good in here. I don't know. I don't feel like a plant on a stake is the best situation for this pot. But it's what I had available at the time. So that's what it's in. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it grabs onto the stake soon. I was really inspired to get this one growing up a stake after seeing one at Tillery Street Plant Co. that was growing up a stake that was huge. So yeah, we'll see. I hope it seemed to like the stake there. So hopefully it likes the stake here as well. And next to it is my humidifier that is currently not running. So these plants over here, especially like even getting into my Hoya and stuff, definitely get the most humidity being over here. So I try to keep plants over here that could use the extra humidity. That's why I have a begonia here. This is my begonia maculata, which I got from Tillery Street, the same trip that I went with my husband and got the Dracaena. And this was one that I potted up recently and put into what is debatably, or what was debatably too large of a pot, but it is doing so well and is really, really enjoying it. So no issues whatsoever. And that's why I mentioned in that video that like sometimes you just try things out. And like, look at how cute all of this new growth is over here. We love it. I probably need to you have to really keep up with staking begonias. This is my first cane begonia, but I probably need to continue staking these and like maybe even get taller stakes. And this is one that's in one of my favorite pots that I've had for years. But yeah, it's doing really, really well and is enjoying being here. Over here in this corner, away from all of my other plants, is my Monstera Stambleiana albo because it got spider mites. So I kind of have it over here quarantining. It was actually so funny. Probably only funny to me. I actually haven't checked this, so like theoretically it could still have spider mites, but I was looking at this plant and I was like, that's funny. This plant looks like it has spider mites. Weird. I wonder what could be causing damage that looks like spider mite damage. Hey, it was spider mites. Duh. But I don't know. It just like didn't seem like the type of plant that would get spider mites. Like usually they only like to attack thin leaf plants. So I was just really surprised, but it did get spider mites. I'm excited to see this one grow out and also hopefully attach to the stake. Over here is my philodendron subhestatum, which you would not know is a subhestatum because I grew it out to mature, and I guess when they mature, they lose the red backs. This is one that I grew out from a cutting and has not done anything for me since I've potted it up, but hopefully will soon. I considered getting rid of this plant because I wanted the subhestatum literally for the red backs. And so when this one lost the red backs, I was like, okay, so like what's the point? But I actually feel like the texture on them is really cool. Like I mentioned, I really like a pillowy leaf, and I just kind of want to see how big I can get the leaves to grow. So hopefully it starts doing something for me soon. Then over here, I have my painted lady philodendron, which I have in kind of a comically small pot to also have a moss bowl in, but it is doing really well. It's been putting out some really, really pretty yellowy leaves for me, which I love to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing it attached to the moss pole. I never have had this one on a moss pole, so I'm hoping I can get some really big leaves out of it. I just had it growing up a cocoa coir pole in my last house, and the leaves were really small but really pretty. And, you know, like I said before with my philodendron white princess, if you're gonna have pretty small leaves, wouldn't they be even prettier if they were bigger? So hopefully that happens with this one. And the very last plant that I have in my sunroom is my syngonium 3 Kings, which is in this fun, like kind of wine pot. I got this one for free. I have mixed feelings about, because like this leaf, stunning, gorgeous. This leaf, really like it, but like so many of the leaves just end up coming out like this, and I don't really like those. I mean, this one's kind of cool. So I don't know, I actually considered getting rid of this one, and then it ended up being the plant that I accidentally took the most cuttings of when I moved, and I just figured I would see how it grows in. I mean, this leaf looks really, really promising. I love how that leaf looks, so I'll probably keep some amount of this plant. My favorite way to grow syngonium is in a pot kind of like this with a big trellis, and this one isn't ready for a trellis yet, but that's how I envision growing this one, is putting a trellis in the back and then tying them all up to the trellis and keeping it probably sitting on the floor. And I just feel like that's the growing style that I feel like syngonium look the best in. So yeah, I'm looking forward to continue growing this one out. But anyway, now that we've spent absolutely forever in my sunroom, let's move on to the living room next. And welcome to my living room. So like I mentioned earlier, this just sits right on the other side of my sunroom, which my sunroom is not air conditioned. So it gets up to like recently only 80 degrees, which is really awesome. When we first moved in, it was closer to like 95, which was too hot for my plants. So we will see. It's been close to 100 here in Texas already. So it's staying at 80 degrees. I'm quite happy with, and that makes me feel like I'm not gonna have to get a mini split or something like that. But if I have to, I'll get a mini split and we will cool that room down. But anyway, so I have my caladium lindenii here just on the other side of the sunroom. So this still gets quite a lot of bright indirect light, and it is very, very happy. It has grown so much for me. This is also one that I have repotted recently and is just really full. And this has been such an easy, low maintenance plant for me, so I really can't complain. And that's the kind of plant I like to have in my living room too, that just a full, bushy, happy plant that, I don't know, just like looks good in the background of my living room. I really enjoy it. My living room is extremely dark. Other than the sunroom, there's no windows, and obviously the sunroom, like the window doesn't open directly into the living room, and so it just doesn't get a ton of light. So this corner is extremely low light, and this is where I keep my variegated peace lily, which is one of my favorite plants. I feel like this is such an underrated plant. I just think they're so pretty, they're so easy, and the flowers smell so good. Not enough people talk about that. I mean, the flowers aren't that pretty, but they just smell fantastic, and who doesn't want that in their house? And yeah, I just feel like this is another really great living room plant, just to have like a happy bowl plant in your living room, just existing, just doing her thing. But I'll probably move this into higher light at some point just to give it some time in the sun. But this is getting no direct light at all, like not even indirect light. It's basically no light whatsoever other than this lamp, which is not a grow light and usually isn't even facing that way. I actually don't know why it's facing that way. Usually it's facing in towards the living room, but she's still doing pretty well. And I have this little magnet on her to give her some character. And I also thrifted this plate recently. It's so cute. It's technically like, there's a bunch of words you can kind of see under the pot, just like a few words there. But I just thought like the little houses along the outside were so cute and perfect for a little plant tray. I've been trying to thrift more plates for my plants versus buying a tray on Amazon or something like that. So I definitely recommend going to the thrift store for your plant trays as much as possible, because this is so much more unique than anything I could buy, or if I did buy it, it would have been very expensive. So very happy with this. Then up here on my, I don't know what this is, receiver? yes, my receiver for my speakers, I have my Monstera adansonii, which is so tiny in comparison to what the mother plant was. The mother plant was like maybe 6 feet tall and huge. So, and I just don't know what I'm gonna do with this plant now. I don't think Monstera adansonii is my favorite plant in the world. And I just can't decide if I want to have this grow climbing or trailing or like maybe like pinning it against the wall. Like I feel like there's a way for me to really, really like this plant and grow it in a way that I really enjoy, but I just don't know what it is. So let me know if you have any tips. I feel like I want to do something kind of unconventional. It's getting no light here, like no light whatsoever. But the idea of maybe like having it grow along my walls in the living room could be really cool, but it doesn't get any light. So I don't feel like it's gonna be happy doing that. And it'd be really hard to get a grow light in here to make that work. But I don't know, let me know if you have any thoughts. Then over here on my other speaker, on the other side of the TV is my golden pothos. And this was one that I grew from cuttings. Well, okay, so my mom gave me cuttings of this plant, but the plant is originally from my grandma, and I grew out a whole golden pothos from those cuttings. But then when we moved, I took more cuttings, and so now this one is grown out from those cuttings. So originally mother plant from my grandma, and this has been growing like a weed here. Again, this gets literally no natural light whatsoever, but it does have this lamp above it that is always facing it. But yeah, it's just been a really, really easy, happy, healthy grower for me. The last two plants in my living room I keep on our like record player console table, which used to be our coffee bar in our old house. And I have two more pothos. So I have a marble queen pothos on the left. Please ignore the dog toy over there. But yeah, this marble queen I also grew from cuttings and is just growing in like crazy and is very happy, and also gets literally zero natural light. It just has this lamp next to it, but is growing very, very well. And then I also have a global green pothos that I also grew from cuttings and is also just quite full, especially just, I mean, like very recently, each of these plants only had a couple of leaves. So it's really just growing like a weed. And I just feel like these are two really, really pretty pothos, and I'm super happy to have them in my collection. Plus this pot is really cool. I feel like I just totally breezed past that. It's such a fun bird pot. I thought it'd be fun to go in a little bit of a different order than we went last time. So I jumped across the house and we are in my primary bedroom now. And I have a few plants on this little step stool thing that I have repurposed into a plant stand. I did have this in my old house as well, and I also used it as a plant stand, but I have different plants on it now. So I have my Pilea peperomioides in here, and this is doing quite well in this pot. I was pretty worried about it. I also just freaking love this pot. I also got this pot in Minnesota and drove down with it to Texas. But I believe they also sell it at Anthropology, which is kind of random. I guess it checks out. I pretty much love everything at Anthropology, so it makes sense that something that I would find that's not even at Anthropology that I would fall in love with would end up at Anthropology. It's just like, my tastes are very consistent. But anyway, when I planted this into this pot, I was a little worried that it was too small to plant up in such a large pot. And I was also moving it from a ceramic pot to terracotta, which can just be a bit of a risk, but it's doing extremely well. Absolutely no complaints. There are so many little plants in here, and the larger plant is growing quite a bit as well. And this little chair sits between two sets of windows. Most of the time we only have this one open, but I try to open up that other one when I can. If I opened it now, it would be very backlit. But yeah, so I would say this gets mostly bright indirect light kind of all day, but that's it. And I found Pilea peperomioides to be a bit finicky, so I'm quite pleased that it's doing well. Then down here I have my one and only African violet, and it has pretty much been flowering for me consistently for the last, like, I don't know, year or 2 years. So I really have no complaints. I mean, most people, I think, buy this plant for the blooms. It could probably use a little soil refresh in there. It's been in the same soil for a really long time, but overall it's really happy. And also, if you have watched my videos, you might remember that I had a very beautiful variegated African violet cutting. I actually had 2 of them. Unfortunately, they did not make it. I had a really hard time transferring them into soil. They did not make it after I did that. So if you have any tips for how to transfer African violet leaves, because you can propagate them by leaf, and basically I just put the leaves in water and they grew roots, and then I put them in soil and then they died. So I'm not really sure what happened, but I'm definitely going to try again. But if you have any tips, let me know, because that was my bad for propagating a plant for the first time without trying it on like a plant that I didn't care about first. So my bad, but I will be trying again. I just feel like, I don't know, it didn't go very well, which is pretty abnormal for potting up propagations in my experience. Right next to it, I have my variegated heartleaf philodendron, which is so beautiful. I'm really looking forward to this being a larger plant, but it is growing extremely slowly. I'm not really sure why. I guess I have another heartleaf that's currently in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet, and it's also a slow grower. Maybe that's just pretty normal for heartleaf philodendrons, but it really hasn't done much for me. So hopefully it grows soon. I also really love the pot that it's in. It's such a beautiful pot. Down here in a mug that I repurposed into a plant pot. Oh, it's heavy. I did literally just water it, so that makes sense. But yeah, I just drilled a hole in the bottom of this. It is, I'm pretty sure, cream splash, philodendron cream splash. The silver stripe looks very similar, but I'm almost completely confident this is the cream splash. And again, I did just water it, so it is very moist, but this is what I would love for my variegated heartleaf philodendron to look like. Like, this is pretty full. Actually, I would love for this to be even more full, but really no complaints. It's growing pretty slowly, but it'll get there. I would say pretty much everything in my bedroom is growing pretty slowly. I don't know. There's always a fan on in here, so they're getting good air circulation, but I don't know if I just like don't water them as much as other areas in the house. I mean, they definitely don't get as much light as my sunroom, obviously, but I don't know. It's okay. I don't need every plant in my house to be the fastest grower ever. It would just be nice, right? And then on the bottom step is my Hoya australis Lisa. This is one of my all-time favorite Hoya. I just think it's so beautiful. It looks like it's putting out a new leaf right there. And I just think the leaves on these look like they've been watercolor painted. They are so beautiful. So I really want to get this one up on some kind of like circle trellis eventually. So once it just gets a little bit bigger, I will probably add that on. We're probably not too far away, so that's exciting. Then over here, kind of behind this curtain, is my Aglaonema pictum tricolor. She's getting pretty tall, and it's been a long time since I've repotted this, so it could probably use some fresh soil for sure. But here she is, and maybe a little bit better lighting. The lighting in here is very difficult right now. But yeah, this has been such an easy plant for me. I really haven't had any difficulties with it. Obviously, it has kind of a crazy tall stem, but I actually think that that's kind of fun. It's almost like it's growing like a tree, and I think this is a flower. So that's really interesting. I don't really know what is causing it to want to flower, but I guess I'm not complaining. This is getting probably lower light because it's usually just pushed back in this corner. Right now that it's closer in the window, you can see some of the light on the leaves is closer to bright and direct, but maybe I should scoot this out to get a little more light. However, I think I cut off most of the leaves where this happened, but this did burn when I put it in my sunroom. So I would say this is a plant that you really don't need to give too much light. I'm pretty sure it's an understory plant, so I don't really know what I was thinking by putting it in my sunroom in the first place, but, you know, I tried. Look at how pretty the light is hitting the leaves. Oh my gosh, beautiful. And those are all the plants in my bedroom. I don't have too many in here. I think partially because we keep it pretty dark in here most of the time. Like, obviously we're sleeping, and we just wake up and go to bed at varied times. You know, sometimes if one of us isn't feeling well, we're in bed at like 7:30. And sometimes we wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. Sometimes we're waking up at 9 a.m. So if I were to have grow lights, it would just be really hard to predict the timers for those. So I've just avoided having them in here. So sticking with natural light in this room. Next, we're in my primary bathroom, and I actually only have 2 plants in here now. This is one that I got from Facebook Marketplace. It has been a wish list plant for me for years, and it hasn't been growing for me too much, but I do see some growth right there, which I'm excited about. And this one is in Pawn, which is a little different for me and does appear to be root bound. You can kind of see, yeah, there's a root. So I don't really know what I'm gonna do with this. I guess I'll have to get some more Pawn so I can put it in a bigger little pot. But overall, it's not doing much for me, but it's definitely doing okay. And usually I have another plant there, but I moved a lot of my Hoyas into my greenhouse cabinet, which you'll see soon. So I guess I need a new plant to put on this windowsill. They just have to be really small in order to fit on the windowsill. So right now, just the one. Then over here, the only other plant I have in my bathroom, which also happens to be in a self-watering pot, is my rattlesnake calathea, which I potted up in a very recent video, and it has not done a thing for me since repotting it, but I think it will. I'm just gonna give her some time. But yeah, I keep her in here. I'm sure she's getting like medium light. I've always had this in pretty low light, and it has always done well for me. But yeah, I just hadn't repotted it since like 2021. So it just felt like it was about time, and I was happy to give it some fresh nutrients in the soil, and then now it's in a self-watering pot, so I can water it that way, and hopefully it can stay moist for quite some time and be happy for me. I decided it makes sense to go straight to my second bathroom, where I have 3 more plants, and the first one is my Maranta silver band, which is always growing for me. I would say actually recently it's slowed down a little bit, but overall I think it's looking pretty good. You can see that it knows that it's daytime now. The leaves are completely flat. And I keep this next to a south window, so it's getting definitely bright, indirect, but never any bright light. And the one thing with this one is that I feel like the soil, I did water it recently, but I feel like the soil stays moist for a really long time. I have a couple plants that are that way, and so this plant seems happy, but the soil staying moist for that long, like we're talking weeks, just feels like a red flag. And it's also been a long time since I've repotted this one, so I'm considering taking it out and checking the roots, seeing what they look like, and then just giving it a nutrient refresh with some fresh soil. It's probably been, I don't know, at least 2 years, I think, since I've had this. Maybe not, I don't know. I really don't remember when I got it actually, but I think it's been a while, and it's probably about time that I take a look at the roots. But let me know if you have experience with a plant where like the plant seems fine, it definitely doesn't have pests or anything like that, it seems fine, but the soil's just staying moist for a really long time, because I just don't really know why. It's definitely more humid in here. I also have a humidity reader in here, and I like to keep this plant in here because I am often drying clothes in here, because this is the like laundry area of the bathroom. And so then when I have wet clothes hanging, it increases the humidity in here, which this plant definitely likes, along with the fact that this is our bathroom that has a tub, and my husband loves to take baths, so there's often a lot of moisture in here. So I think that it enjoys that, but I just don't know why the soil is staying so moist. Who knows? Then up here on the windowsill, I have my only other sansevieria. This is a bird's nest sansevieria, I believe. And I purchased this in a plant shopping video that I filmed this year. It was the plant of the year of 2025 video that I filmed. And if you can believe it, this is the plant of the year. Just any sansevieria has been deemed the plant of the year for 2025, which I understand picking, you know, an easy houseplant, but I feel like it should be a more fun houseplant, but I have this in a pot that I glazed and threw myself, which is really fun. It has my name on the bottom, but you can't really see it. But anyway, I love this pot so much. It's very special to me because I made it. It was in one of my first pottery classes. So I'm gonna set it down before I accidentally drop it. Actually, that feels like a good idea. And then just over here to the left is my very last Thanksgiving cactus that we are going to talk about today. Let's see, is this the best view? You get the washer in the background, but yeah, this one is always growing well for me, always blooming. It's putting out a fair amount of new growth that's also maybe looking sun-stressed. I can't really tell, but it is looking good. And this is one of my favorite terracotta pots that I own because I just feel like the patina on it is so pretty. I also have a little jade plant grown in there in the bottom left as well. But yeah, I've considered taking this to my desk at work just because why not, I guess? Like, I could have a plant at work. I don't have any right now. However, I'm worried that it wouldn't do well, so I haven't done it. Plus, like, the responsibility, I already have so many plants to water at home. If I have to remember to water a plant when I go to work, like, that's kind of a lot, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I will. Next, we are in my entryway where I have just one plant, my chocolate aglaonema, which I keep under one of my SANSI grow lights. I think I have 4 of these total, and I absolutely love them because you can just plug them in and clip them to a pot, move them around. Like, they're very, very easy. But this plant, this is another one where the soil stays moist for so long. Again, I just watered this one as well, but it will stay moist for weeks, and then it is growing, but it's growing really, really slowly. So I'm not sure what that's about. These leaves are quite beautiful, and I would love for this to be growing a bit faster. I also should probably put it lower down so you can actually see the leaves. Look at that. It's so pretty, but I don't know how to get it to grow more quickly. So if you have any aglaonema tips, let me know. Next, we are in my dining room where I keep my Monstera standeliana aurea. You can see in particular, like, this leaf is quite yellow. Same with this one, Winston's running by, but I actually keep this plant in the middle of my dining room table, but it's a little messy right now, so I just moved it to the edge for you all to see. But I do feel like the lighting over here is really doing it justice. It looks really good. Oh my gosh. Anyway, this plant is kind of growing crazily. It sort of grew down and now it's kind of lifting around again, so I don't really know what I'm going to do with it. I feel like this is a plant that generally most people are going to have climb up, and I've just been kind of growing it as a trailer a little bit, so we'll see. I find that standeliana albos are really difficult to propagate. I'm assuming aureas are exactly the same way, so I'm a little nervous to chop and prop this one, and I think it looks really pretty. It seems to be really happy getting kind of bright or medium indirect light. It hasn't needed much more light than that. And right now I'm just pretty happy with how it's growing. So I don't know if I'll do anything too crazy to it in the future. Oh, also, these tend to throw out runners after a while. And so I've been nervous that it would throw out a runner if I don't have it climbing, but so far so good. So I think I'm just gonna leave this one be for a while and see how long I can keep just having it basically as a centerpiece on my dining room table. Over here is my Jose Bono philodendron, and I have officially decided that I am going to be giving this plant away. I just really want one with better variegation. I mean, the variegation on it isn't bad, but there are just other ones that look so much better, and I have tried everything to get the variegation out on this plant. My mother plant, I took like 6 different cuttings of it, and I just don't think it's ever going to be variegated. I've tried highlight, I've tried low light. It's not going to happen. But I do think it does look good on this shelf, and the little eye magnet is obviously very cute. So it's been totally fine for now, but it's starting to outgrow its spot, and I'm getting ready to give it away. Can't keep every plant forever. On top of my arcade is my goldfish plant, which is under another SANSI grow light, and this is doing so well. I am so excited about it. It absolutely loves this grow light. Look at all of the growth that's coming in up there. This is the happiest this plant has been in years. And I actually did a huge chop on it because I just feel like the growth up top is looking so much better than any of the growth down here. I could almost chop off even more of this, but I do really like how it looks trailing like this, so I decided to leave it for now. But hopefully I will get some little goldfish blooms soon because it's been years since this has bloomed. I have a couple plants in my kitchen next, and the first one is in this little face pot that I think is patinaed really, really nicely. And this was the 2024 plant of the year, the Dracaena Janet Craig. And this is getting probably like bright to medium indirect light, probably closer to medium indirect light, and it's still doing pretty well for me. I really can't complain. It dries out pretty quickly, but it's right next to the kitchen sink, and so I can keep up with watering it easily. That is one of my top recommendations if you have plants that dry out a lot, is keep them next to a water source because it makes it a lot easier to keep up with watering. I almost always forget about this plant. I haven't looked at this plant in weeks, but it's still doing okay. This is my Marimo moss ball, and I really want to get this in some kind of a cute situation. I meant to look for glass containers the last time I was at the thrift store, but I completely forgot. But this needs an overhaul. This needs some love and care and attention because I pretty much just keep it in this jar and neglect it. But they're cute in the right circumstances if you can put them in like a cute little jar and have a little display around it. But right now, mine's just in this mason jar. Then on this side of the counter, I have my just regular anthurium. This one flowers a red flower, but it hasn't flowered in years, and I'm really not giving it enough light for it to want to flower. I just kind of have it here as like a pretty green plant to keep on my kitchen counter, and overall, it's doing fairly well. I did repot it recently out of terracotta and into this cute ceramic pot that I got from the grocery store actually, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, it was the grocery store. And overall, I think it looks pretty nice. It's kind of nothing special, but it's really nice to have some just green plants in your house that look good in your space but aren't too striking to kind of fill in the background. Also in my kitchen, just because I don't have a better place for it, is this philodendron Florida Ghost. This was one that I had in one of my prop boxes, and as you can see, the growth has become really lanky, but this leaf has that ghost coloring, which is nice. But I just have this on my counter because I'm going to be giving this plant away. I've just decided that I don't really love it. I think I don't love this shape of leaf on any plant because I used to think that I liked the Philodendron Florida Beauty, but then I saw one in real life and I just really didn't. And I just don't think this leaf shape is for me. So this one will be going to a new home soon. Then I always keep my propagations up on my little windowsill behind my kitchen sink, but it's fun because the sunroom is in here and we've started keeping this window open, which I think is really helping keep the sunroom cool, which is very nice. But here I have some of my variegated Thanksgiving cactus cuttings that are staying in there because I taped them down, but they are all rooting up, and so I'm really excited to get all of these potted up so that I can have a more full Thanksgiving cactus plant, a variegated one, soon. And then here is a sansevieria pinguicula. I don't really know why I decided to put this into water instead of just shoving it into the soil. I feel like I've done it both ways and it's so easy to just shove it into the soil and have it root up, but I'm probably gonna end up giving this cutting away as well because I really like the way that my Sansevieria pinguicula looks, where it's just kind of like a 1, 2, 3 thing. So I don't know that I really need to keep this, but this fell off when I was moving it around. So I was like, well, might as well propagate it, and it's rooting up quite nicely. Then here I have my Hoya compacta, which, what is happening to the stem at the bottom? That looks kind of weird. I don't know if the stem is rotting. I don't know. I guess I could just chop it off, but I took this cutting with the idea that I would pot this back in with the rest of my Hoya compacta. So that has been the plan because it was just a long empty stem so that I could have a more full one. And then finally, my last propagation is my Hoya Wilbur Graves. This I got with a bunch of other Hoya that I think most of them are in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet, so you haven't seen them yet, but the roots just weren't that impressive when I went to pot up the rest of them, so I decided to wait for this one, but now it is definitely overdue for a repot, so I need to get on that. But they just have very, very pretty splashy leaves. All right, everyone, round of applause. Get excited. We are in the very last room in my house for this plant tour. And I want to show you these plants that I have over here next to my desk for when I work from home. And again, I have one of my SANSI grow lights. I do have a discount code for them that I can put in the description down below if you're interested. Seriously love them so much. A couple of the lights they sent me, but then a couple of them I purchased with my own money because I just love them literally that much. They're just so easy to use around the house. And some rooms in my house are very bright and some are darker, so that I've just found them to be very, very handy. But anyway, right here I have my Epipremnum pinnatum albo, and this leaf that it gave me, this newest one, is absolutely stunning. It has some fenestrations happening. It's just beautiful. And I did have this growing up, I think a moss pole in my last house. I actually can't remember. I don't think I had it trailing, but then I decided that I just really wanted to have one trailing. So that's been my goal, and it has taken a really long time to get settled, but I'm extremely happy with this newest leaf. Of course, it is so pretty. And then right next to it is my philodendron white knight, and I don't know what's happening here. I don't know if this is like sunburn, like I mentioned with my white princess. I did some research and it seems like this kind of texture probably is sunburn. I don't see any sign of pests, so I don't know. It's weird that it would be getting burned from this grow light, but I don't get it. But it doesn't really matter because I just decided I'm going to be giving this plant away. I've been kind of on the fence about it, but it's just, I don't really want to put it on a pole. It just feels like a lot of work. It's crazy that it's standing up so straight without any sort of support. I mean, look at that. That is crazy. Like usually a plant would need a stake to be that straight, but I'm just really not in love with it. And it's in this pot that I painted myself. And I would just like to have a plant that I like more to be in this pot. And yeah, it's just not a plant I'm loving, so I'll be giving that one away as well. Although this leaf is really pretty, and I swear sometimes the leaves can have some pink on them, but none of mine really have recently, so that's annoying. And then hiding back here is my Manjula pothos, and it's doing really well. It's very full, and I'm hoping that will be in a big basket someday. Every time I say big basket, to me, a big basket of a plant is like a huge trailing plant. But I don't know if that's how everyone else thinks of a big basket of plants. But every time I say it, what I really mean is that I'm really looking forward to having it be like really full and trailing, and it's growing very well. I'm sure I'll get there in no time. And then here we are, the very last corner of my plant collection. I feel like I've been talking so much. My voice is very tired. I made a promise to myself that I would talk as much as I felt like it, basically, for every plant, because I love long YouTube videos, and I just really felt like my last plant tour, it was too short, it was too quick. So I just wanted to tell you about all my plants as much as possible, but now my throat is tired. So we just have a little bit more. Some of my favorite plants are over in this corner, which is really exciting. So over here is my Monstera Thai constellation. This one was kind of funny because I had mentioned that it wasn't really putting out leaves for me and that I hadn't gotten a new leaf in forever in a recent video. And then right after I said that, it started putting this leaf out. So I guess sometimes you just have to say something and your plant hears you and is like, hey, I guess I will put a leaf out. But yeah, that leaf looks really great. I'd say my preference for Thai constellations tend to be more of this like splashiness, but I have been getting some of the white. I did have to chop off some browning on pretty much every white leaf that it's gotten other than this newest one, which is annoying. That's part of the reason I just prefer like this splashy leaf. So hopefully we get back in on the splashy train, because the last, let's see, 4 leaves have had that kind of like half moon or partial moon style of leaf. So actually, I don't know, maybe this is where we're going in the future, but I'm really hoping having this grow up on a moss pole is going to help it mature, but it doesn't get a ton of light. It is next to my IKEA greenhouse, but pretty far from the window in this room, so I don't know, maybe it needs more light to be able to mature, but I feel like most people don't keep their monsteras like this on a moss pole, so I'm just hoping that gives me like kind of a leg up, but I guess we'll see. Then up top, on top of my IKEA greenhouse cabinet, I have another one of my SANSI grow lights and my Tradescantia Yellow Hill. This has been growing like crazy. I think it looks so good up there. It is in the background. Really, all of these plants are in the background of my work calls, which I think is fun. Nobody ever comments on them, which is sad. Like, I want someone to be like, oh, I love plants and I love them too. But I also, you know, I'm in person most of the time anyway. But yeah, this pot is so small for such a big plant, actually. But it doesn't really seem to mind. And I would expect to get some yellowing from underwatering because the pot is so small, but so far so good. It's just looking good and crazy. All right, inside of the cabinet, I have a lot of Hoyas up top. Starting over here, I have my Hoya multiflora, which is flowering. Can you believe this? I am so excited to have this plant in my collection. This was a big wish list plant for me, and it's doing so well in here. I find that Hoyas just do really, really well in my greenhouse cabinet, especially when they're this small, so I always try to prioritize having them in here. And I have Barina grow lights up here, which are quite strong, and so I also find that Hoyas can handle the bright light, so that's another reason why I love having them up here. This one is my, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on what this is called? Oh, this is gonna kill me later. I'm normally, oh my gosh, what? It's like the mermaid tail Hoya, but the variegated version. I don't know, I'll put it on screen. That is very unlike me to not know the name of this plant. Oh, that's really gonna bother me, but this was another wish list plant, and it put out a new leaf for me, which is completely white. So hopefully the next one will not be completely white and we'll have some color. There, you can kind of see it a bit better there. We'll just have to see. Up here, I have my Tradescantia. No, it's a Calisa pink repens, I believe. And it looks so cute in this head planter. It is in a plastic pot inside of here because this head planter doesn't have drainage. And I do feel like it needs repotted because it's kind of growing like crazy in there, but it's definitely root bound. But I don't have another pot that was like, because I could have a pot that's deeper, but it can't be too much wider for it to fit in here, and I'm kind of obsessed with how it looks in there, so I've been putting off repotting it for that reason. And then back here is my Hoya macrophylla albo, which is doing super well. It's putting out some new growth down in there and has given me a bunch of new leaves, so I'm very happy with that. Usually this is a big flowering plant for me, but I did take a bunch of cuttings of it before I moved, so only time will tell if these cuttings are going to flower a ton as well. But this is another pot, not as pretty as the other one, that I threw and glazed myself, that I'm also really proud of. So even though it's kind of ugly, I do love this pot a lot. Then hanging up here is my variegated Hoya Bella. This has not really been doing anything for me, and it's lost. Oh, wait, I see some growth. Oh, that's exciting. There's no way it's gonna focus, but you can kind of see it behind this finger. Oh my gosh. It's so exciting. It lost pretty much all of its leaves, and I just decided to put it in my greenhouse cabinet to give it lots of love in here, lots of light, lots of humidity to hopefully bring it back, and that seems to be working. So no complaints here. I'm really looking forward to seeing this one come back. This got mealybugs. A bunch of the Hoya that I got when I did a big Hoya haul on Facebook Marketplace ended up with mealybugs, but we're in the clear, no more mealybugs, and I'm finally seeing some growth, so I'm very excited about that. And speaking of mealybugs, this is the non-variegated version of the plant that I can't remember the name of right now. There, you can kind of see it a bit better. It's really bothering me that I can't remember the name of this, but it's doing really, really well. This also had mealybugs, but thankfully no longer does. And I really, really want a huge hanging plant of this, or some kind of like trailing plant, and I'm just really excited to see this grow out. I love being patient with my plants. I feel like being patient and growing my plants out is one of my favorite things about owning them. Okay, on this middle shelf, I have 3 different plants. The first one is, oh my gosh, it's root bound. Wait a second. Do you see? There's like a little root sticking out. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, we love to see it. Well, I guess I have to repot this. But this is my syngonium pink splash, which is one of my favorite plants. I had a huge one back when I was in Iowa, and I took cuttings, and this is all I have left, which is quite sad. This also made an appearance in my most expensive plants video, if you can believe it or not, but when I bought it, it was much bigger. Yeah, it really hasn't been doing much for me, but I guess it's just been rooting. So, oh my gosh. Well, that's on me. If I turn a plant upside down, of course it's going to spill. That's very unfortunate because I cleaned this cabinet for this video. Anyway, that is really exciting. I'm gonna repot that soon, and then maybe it will grow a bit better because that is a really small pot. And next to it is this pothos enjoy that has also kind of been doing nothing for me. I'm starting to think maybe it doesn't like the greenhouse cabinet, but I don't know. This pot tends to dry out really quickly, so I thought the greenhouse cabinet would be a good place for it. I don't know. Maybe I'll take it out and see how it does. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm spilling. Stop spilling, Sloan. Ah, there's also a huge root sticking out here. How well can you see that? The lighting is not really... Yeah, you can see it right there. That's crazy. Is this root bound, or are they just like reaching out of the bottom of the plant? I don't know, but that's wild that both of those are doing that. Oh my gosh. All right, and then next to it, I have my pitcher plant. This is my only carnivorous plant right now, and I would love to increase my carnivorous plant collection. I especially want more pinguiculas. I have never successfully grown one. I tried to buy one once, and it died pretty much immediately, but I also just I did not know what I was doing, and I feel like I know a bit more what they might need, but hopefully this is going to be putting some pictures out for me. I recently repotted it, and it is now living in a sphagnum moss and perlite mix, and I think that it's really liking it, and there's even 2 little babies in here, which I love to see, and I just water it with distilled water, and I keep it in my greenhouse cabinet because sphagnum moss dries out so quickly that I just feel like this is a better spot for it versus if it was just in ambient humidity. And this way it also gets a fair amount of light, but if it gets big, I will probably move it into my sunroom, and then we'll just have to see how that goes. But hopefully I can get some pictures soon now that it is in a new growing medium. All right, and we only have 4 plants left. I'll start with my Rhaphidophora decursiva back here. This is such a beautiful plant. The glossy leaves are just like nothing else. And this is another one that I took a cutting of, and it has done nothing for me. I mean, I think it put this leaf out, which is so small, but even the small leaves are so glossy that I think they're quite pretty. And now I'm just waiting for something else to happen, which is why it's in my cabinet, to just try to give it the best conditions that I can for it to be settled in and start growing. And I also have a little pin right here to hold this stem back, which I think contributes to making it look nice. It was kind of flopped over and didn't look very good, but I think that it looks really, really good right now, and I love this plant. I think it's kind of underrated. This is one that does put out runners if you don't have it climbing, and so I definitely recommend getting it climbing ASAP, kind of like I'm doing here. I wish it was a plant that you could just have in a trailing basket, because I think that even if the leaves aren't fenestrated, they're so beautiful, but it will just put out these really long stems that are not pretty. So anyway, I'm excited to see this one grow out again. Then here I just have a green Hartley philodendron, and oh my gosh, no way, it's finally putting a leaf out for me. I was just about to say that it's done absolutely nothing for me, but look at that. It's been months doing nothing, and now I have a leaf. That is amazing. That is the best news. Whoa, I'm so excited. Okay, yeah, I don't know why this has really done nothing, but I did just end up repotting this because the pot that it was in broke, and like the bottom just completely fell out of it, which was crazy. So maybe it likes its new home. And then I also did just move it to my greenhouse cabinet to try to rehab it a bit, because I just had it in the rest of my house and it was doing nothing, and it seems to like my greenhouse cabinet. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I did also want to say that my greenhouse cabinet is usually around 80% humidity. I've had it open now, obviously for filming, so now it's only 63% humidity, but it usually sits around 80%. And if you want to know anything more about my IKEA greenhouse setup, I do have a whole video talking about it. It's the IKEA Fabricor. And guys, I'm heavily considering getting a second Fabricor, but getting the Fabricor wide and putting that in my dining room. So let me know if you think that I should. I could film like a whole setup video. I don't know. I just feel like I need more. I need another greenhouse cabinet. And I don't really want a Mills bow. I just don't feel like those are for me. But anyway, the last plant that is in my greenhouse cabinet is this anthurium fingers. And this plant is so difficult. You would not think that it would be, because it's not a velvety anthurium. It's like fairly thick leafed, but I have struggled with it so hard, and I just really don't think it can handle low humidity. That's my best guess. I'm so excited to see that there is a growth spike in there. Wow, this fan is being really loud, but yeah, I'm seeing a growth spike there, which is extremely exciting, because it has done nothing for me. Like every leaf that it has put out has just died and looked terrible. But I had it out in my sunroom, and I just decided that I think this plant has to permanently live in the greenhouse. I don't think it will ever get out of it. I don't think it can handle it. Maybe it could live in my bathroom, but we're gonna try to get this plant looking good, which might be years from now, and then I will consider moving it out of my cabinet. It is going to live in here for a long time. Permanent location for a while. So hopefully it will put out more leaves like this, because it's such a fun plant. I love it so much. It's kind of creepy looking, but I love it. And I would love to see it be doing better than it is now. Oh my gosh, can you believe it? We are now at the very last plant in my entire collection, which is also my favorite plant, the philodendron gloriosum. These have the prettiest, huge leaves. They're just absolutely stunning, absolutely gorgeous. And it's put out like quite a few leaves, I think, since I've last shown this on my channel. I mean, this one is hiding because it's facing the back, but it is perfect and massive. I should really show that one more often. And this one is the newest. It's not quite as big as that one, but it's still doing well. And she is working on another leaf that is looking huge, but it is doing this weird thing. I think maybe because the stem is so long, it's starting to lift up out of the pot, which we do not love. I want it to continue growing in a circle like the rest of this is, but we'll just see. I'm hoping I can just tame it to go back down once it gets around. But I also, isn't this weird that it put this leaf out in front and then now this one is coming in kind of behind? I feel like that's very strange, but it is what it is. Yeah, I just love this plant so much. I mean, this leaf, I wish I could show you. There we go. Just look at that. It does get a lot of extra floral nectaries, which are these like sap-like substances on the back. So it was kind of sticky and gross when I just touched the back of it. I do shower this one off quite a bit because of that. And also it's very prone to spider mites. So it's just a good plant to shower off generally, although this one has never had spider mites, thank goodness. But anyway, this is my very last plant. So those are all of my plants, and I can't believe how many that I actually have. I don't know how many I have. That's something I always calculate as I'm editing, but you all know. And let me know if you feel like that's a lot of plants. I know that I definitely want more. Coming from a 1,400 square foot house to a bigger house in Texas, I feel like I have a similar amount of plants that I had in Iowa, but like because my house is bigger, it's not giving the same vibe. Like I want it to feel like a jungle, and it doesn't feel like a jungle yet. So I'm still definitely going to be collecting more plants, but I just have to say that these plant tours take me the longest to film and the longest to edit. They're just a lot of work to make, but they're also some of the videos that you guys love the most, and that just makes it so worth it to make these videos. So especially you that have made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching my entire video. If you are not already subscribed, I would so appreciate it if you would take a moment to subscribe, and then you can see what my plants look like in just a few months from now when I film another updated tour. And I just really appreciate you being here. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye!